Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. Welcome back to another episode of 3 Points Perspective with myself, Nina, and Charlie. Listen, we're back and we're going to be speaking about all the latest news regarding the club, everything that's happening at the moment, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly. I think there's probably more so the bad and ugly at the moment, to be honest. Especially when we talk about Enzo Maresca. But no, listen, we're here and we've obviously lost against Warsaw, but we still qualified into the next round, and we're going to be playing Fulham shortly as well. How are we feeling, guys? Nina, I didn't see you in the studio, so I know you're feeling a little bit under the weather.
Oh yeah, under the weather is one way to describe it. Yeah, how am I feeling? It's been a pretty what's the word? Reality check week when you see Arsenal's Real Madrid game, then you see, the Europa League action, and then you see us losing in the Conference League. It's a pretty big slap in the face, like Chelsea wake up to have to watch that and think, where to from here? So I think, we're in a pretty low spot at the moment as a fan base, as, a community, as a football channel on here. It's very difficult these days to be positive about stuff. So yeah, it's not really helped, to be honest with you. I just think, we're at this point in the season now where there are still goals to reach and they just feel like they're slipping away, or we will get over the line with, every might in our body. And it should never be like that. We should be a convincing club that achieves goals, that gets things with conviction, does things with conviction, but we're not. And the fact that, we've been so inconsistent up and down, there's been so many things wrong, it just doesn't fill you with much confidence. So I'm in a pretty miserable spot at the moment as a football fan.
Yeah, obviously you've been doing some stuff covering the other UEFA games, so you're in a better position. And well, I'm guessing you haven't watched them as much, Charlie, either, because we've been watching the Chelsea games. You've obviously seen Betis and all these other teams as well. I mean, do you feel like the way we're playing? Do you still feel like we can win the Conference League?
Well, I said, last week watching, I've covered Fiorentina as well. I covered Betis. Betis played some brilliant football as well. And just watching them and the players that they have and the way that they're a very well coached team is a very big differentiation to Chelsea, because at the moment we're not a very good coached team. And, there's a lot of talk about Maresca and how he's setting us up. Are the players good enough? But, teams like Betis, on the day, they can absolutely beat Chelsea, and that's an issue. So, whatever team we play in the final, granted we get there, obviously we have to play Jagarden, which I watched them, they won their leg 4-1, actually, when Chelsea lost 2-1. But, they were playing a 9-man team. The disparity still in the quality of us and the other teams is still quite stark, and we really should be winning this with conviction. But everyone knows that a final on the day, with all the emotions and, again, the better football played by the better team wins. Doesn't matter who you are and who the bigger club is on the day. So that's a concern. It really is. But we could absolutely get beaten. I'm saying that now. We shouldn't, but we could. And that's a real issue to have there. It's not good.
Charlie, mate. What do you think about our Conference League hopes? Because I mean, it's quite obvious that well, at least from what I saw on Thursday, it looks like Maresca's prioritising the Conference League over the Premier League. I mean, you wouldn't play a full strength side when you got a 3-0 lead already against a poor Warsaw side who aren't even top of the Polish division, if you're not taking that competition more seriously than the Premier League. But then again, I mean, he says Fulham's a final. Maybe that carries some weight. I don't really know. What's your take on it?
I don't know. It's hard, isn't it, really? Because I think when you look at the team selections that he's made in recent weeks in terms of the last couple of league games and then the 2 legs of the Warsaw tie, it's hard not to feel that the Conference League is more important to him personally than the Premier League is right now. That might not be the case, but that's what his team selections have shown. You got Reece James who can't play 90. He doesn't kick a ball against Ipswich, but then he plays 90 minutes against Legia Warsaw in that defeat on Thursday night. And you got him coming out, Maresca coming out saying that, Reece can't play every 3 days. Okay, fine. We sort of know that, and you're still building him up and whatever. But why would you not play him in a Premier League game, which is far more important than a Conference League quarter-final where you're 3-0 up? That for me wasn't really making sense. This game against Fulham, which he's now described as a final, your captain probably, almost certainly isn't starting that game, which it just feels a little bit strange. But I've said this to you in the studio the other day that for me, it looks like for the manager on a personal level, having a trophy at Chelsea on the CV is more important than having a top 5 finish. So if he were to leave at the end of the season, having the Conference League trophy on his CV is going to hold him in better stead than just having a top 5 finish on there. We qualify for Champions League football. The trophies hold more CV at the end of hold more weight at the end of the day on the CV. So I think for him personally, I think the Conference League is more important.
See, that's mad, isn't it? Because that is more of a mentality shift than you could have even expected. I mean, just the fact that we're talking about being a team that are fighting for Champions League, like there's still fans that are disappointed with that. They believe that with the money that we've spent, we should be competing for more titles, challenging domestically, especially in the Premier League.
If the money's been spent in the right way. It's all very
well.
I
just mean as a generalization, like you talk about the money that's being spent.
Sure.
And then you talk about the manager and his priorities, and we're not even prioritizing the bare minimum anymore. We're actually going a level down. Because I would say that the Conference League is the easiest trophy that you can win as Chelsea manager. It's hard. It's easier to win than the Carabao Cup. It's easier to win than the FA Cup. It's obviously easier than the Premier League. And I just don't understand where that's come from, because I don't think that that's something that comes from the ownership, because they obviously would prioritize the financial side of finishing top 5. So this is something that the manager is directly influencing with his team selection, with the approach that we're using going into games. And I just think it's a very weak mentality. And I've said this already about Maresca, but this is a level below even what I would expect from any manager managing a football club like Chelsea. I mean, it just should be a bare minimum expectation to win the Conference League, but then we're acting as if it's the Champions League and we don't need to prioritize the Premier League. I mean, it's criminal to me. I don't get it whatsoever. But I definitely agree with your point, Charlie. I think you're right. I think that he's looking at the Conference League and thinking, I'm not going to be competing for many other trophies in my career. Maybe that's a little bit harsh the way I say it. I could phrase it in a nicer way, but bluntly put. And if he gets a Conference League, then it's something that I have on his CV forever.
Well, I mean, look, we also don't know when the next trophy is going to come. So when you get to this point, you're almost like, well, at Chelsea, we've been very used to taking trophies for granted, but right now, we haven't won a trophy in almost 3 years under this ownership. And so it is vitally important that we get a trophy on the board. So from that perspective, I can understand why this has got significant importance. But also, the two things should be able to coexist with a level of opposition that we're playing, and the difference in quality between us and any other team, give or take Fiorentina or Betis, in the competition is huge. So you should be able to do both. You shouldn't need to be resting players in a Premier League to prioritize the Conference League. Maybe for the first leg, I still wouldn't do it, but I could understand it to a degree. But for a second leg, when you're 3-0 up, it made no sense whatsoever. But I think now there's a realization within the club with the fixtures that we've got left. And this is just me sharing. This is not fact or anything. This is just my opinion. But I think they know deep down, the manager knows, we're not getting top 5. With the way that we're playing, and with the fixtures we've got left, and the level of opposition we've got to play, and the fact that we've been absolutely terrible since Christmas, we're not going to suddenly turn it on for the last 6 games and win 4 of them 6 games and qualify for the Champions League. I just cannot see that happening.
I agree with what Charlie said about the two coexisting. Just to go back to the point, we should not be losing this much sleep and worrying about the Conference League. No disrespect to anyone else. Again, I've covered the teams. There's some good teams in there. To their own standards, they are happy with the way they're performing, and a lot of them are very, very much actually above expectation from what their own fans expect of them in the competition. We, however, this, the competition as a whole is something that we should be playing at, 60% and winning comfortably. That's just the truth, because why is it that we are hoping for Champions League football when we're sitting here insecure in the Conference League and insecure about our games, insecure about our team selection, our manager overthinking things and playing players that he can comfortably play twice a week? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but I think that's the big worry here. Like, we are hoping and praying for Champions League football when we're very, very insecure in the Conference League. And yeah, of course, a trophy, fine, but we would get laughed at if somebody says at the end of the season, oh, it's all right though, because we won a trophy, didn't make Champions League football, but we won the Conference League. Like, that is laughable. That is a laughable thing to say. So, you can call us entitled about seeing this as an expectation, that it should almost be a given that we win this Conference League, but to, shout from the rooftops at the end of the year that you won a trophy but didn't qualify for Champions League football, which was the most and foremost important thing in the first place, then I'm sorry, but that's not a great accomplishment. It's just an expectation. And again, we have standards here. We've been out of the Champions League for far too long, and to continue doing that, well, then what's it going to be next year? Oh, well, great, we finished in the top 8 spot. Or like, the standards will get stripped and stripped and stripped if this continues. That's why, we have a responsibility as fans to demand better. That's where we are as well. We're talking about it, we're calling for it, we're identifying where the problems are, both on the pitch, off the pitch, managerially, player-wise, individual. But yeah, this is the thing. They have to coexist. We have to absolutely win the Conference League and make a Champions League qualification spot. I was actually greedier this year because I thought we could actually go and maybe win a domestic cup too. Those were my expectations. So hey, look where we are now. So I refuse to actually go away from that and think that just one or the other is good enough. Like, both should have happened this year.
I think the other thing as well, look, we talk about the team selections and what Maresca's approach is in terms of how seriously taking the Conference League. That's one thing. But then to go a step further, it's then, what do you do when you have those players on the pitch? And my prediction against Warsaw was that, we'd have Jorgensen in goal, Achimpong would start. He did. Badiashile started, to be fair. Toss in, it's like, all right, whatever. I didn't expect Cucurella to play. I thought Gusto would probably be left back. That was a shock for me. I thought we might have a Mugu in the midfield, Dewsbury Hall. I'd love to see Tyreek George start, maybe Mweka. I want to see Nkunku play as a number 10. And we've got Palmer and Jackson starting as well. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? That was the first game. And I actually regret the fact that I didn't do it now. I have good reason for not doing it because my train was late. We went into Earls Court and basically I just had to walk from there. So it was an extra 20 minutes to get to the bridge. But I was due to get there about sort of 7:10. And I was so angry when I saw the starting 11. I actually wanted to do a pre-match fan cam just to rant about the starting 11. And I honestly, I wish I'd have done it now. Because in hindsight, I feel, that would have been quite I don't want to say a cool moment because that's probably not the way to say it, but it would have been like a memorable moment to be like, this manager was so bad that he made you do a fan cam before the game about how bad the starting 11 was. Then you went on to lose the game with all of your best players on the pitch, your captain, your top scorer, your striker, your best left back, and we still couldn't beat Warsaw because although we qualified, again, it's like, doesn't feel like a win. And after the game, I was speaking and I left straight away after the whistle. I was like, I'm not staying for that. That is just horrendous. So I actually wasn't in the stadium for the boos, although completely justified. I'm not a fan of booing your own players, but absolutely justified the boos in Stamford Bridge for me. And I think there's certain games where you have to appreciate as fans, you are absolutely entitled to boo. I just think when you do it every week consistently, I think that's maybe when it's a little bit wrong. Robert Sanchez is a good example. Players like that. I think sometimes you just need to accept that they're going to play and see what happens. Middlesbrough last season was another example where you're like, fair enough. But I was outside the stadium and people were coming up to me and they were going, he's not good enough. He's got to go. I had one guy say it's the worst Chelsea squad of all time. Probably not true. But, very emotional fans and absolutely justified as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Obviously, like even following the Ipswich game, obviously there was boos at half time. Again, we've had this discussion a lot, and people know how I feel about that. I don't condone it. I don't think it's right to boo players. It doesn't really inspire motivation, but you can express frustration with what you see, because I always say, like, going to football is a live experience. When you go to a live experience, you react to what it is, whether it's a play and it's funny, whether it's you're at the theatre, you're enjoying it, whatever it is, you react, you're a fan, you're a human. And, you can absolutely be frustrated when what you're seeing is visibly not going anywhere. There isn't a clear identity or a style, or there isn't a clear intention with what you're doing. And that's where you're like, well, what are we doing? So in a way, excuse me, I'm glad he's saying treat it as a final at Fulham, because it should be like Fulham should not be doing the double over us this year, and Fulham should certainly, like Ipswich, not take 4 points off us this year. So whatever he wants to do and however he wants to do it, he needs to find and do something differently. That's the thing. Like, I've been calling for it. Try something different. Try something new. But Reece James should be starting in this game. He should have at least had about 10 minutes minimum against Ipswich, just to come on, just to bring your captain onto the pitch, just so he's there and can actually maybe inspire something from the surrounding players in his squad. Yet he wasn't there. Yet you brought on Nkunku instead. So it's little decisions like that where he's got the agency and he's got the freedom to inspire something in this side a little bit. Like, even he himself, I don't think Maresca's been as vocal and I know by the standards of managers we've had in the past, we are very used to seeing a lot of emotion coming from the touchline, a lot of expression and physicality during games where you're talking to your players, you're reacting to everything. And I'm not saying that Maresca's not emotional or happy about what he's seeing, but he certainly looks more lost at the touchline than he does inspiring. So that's also another food for thought for Maresca. Not that he's watching 3 Points Perspective. I hope he is. Maresca, if you are, welcome, mate. You never know.
You are not welcome.
Can I select the next lineup, please? Thank you.
Please leave.
Please. But yeah, no, I think certainly now we're calling for some change, because we're so predictable. We're so frustrated with the kind of repeating of the same thing that's leading to the same outcome. It's like, if it's not working, it's not working. But we've been wanting to play better football. That's not been happening. I said, okay, as long as we get the results, but we've not been getting the results. So at some point we've reached a stage where it's like, it's alarming to not be able to pick out, never mind 4 wins, 3 even, or 2 from the remaining fixtures we have, guys. Like, if you had to look at those next fixtures, can you confidently say that 2 wins are definitely coming from either of those games?
Those 2 wins were supposed to be Ipswich and who did we have before that?
Brentford.
And Brentford. That's where they were supposed to come from. I mean, if I'm honest, I always felt like Brentford was going to be a tough one, and I kind of accepted that. But I thought, okay, Ipswich will be fine. 2-0 at half time. What the fuck is going on? And then people were trying to give Maresca credit for coming back. Come on, people. Come on. Have some standards. Have some shame. Although I will say that in the second half, we created a lot of chances, but I thought we were done with being 45-minute FC. I thought that was the conversation we had last season. And I mean, I'm not even seeing 45-minute FC at the moment. I'm seeing 10 minutes FC if I'm lucky. So that's the way I see it at the moment. I can't speak to fans that are watching at home, because obviously I'm not at home. So you're probably in a position where you're a little bit more patient. You haven't traveled up. You haven't spent the money to go and watch the game. There's no criticism towards that. Everyone's entitled to do whatever they want. But I mean, I'm speaking to match-going fans and I'm asking them, like, do you feel the same way as me? And most people say yes. And it just sort of reiterates everything that I'm saying, that I'm not being crazy here. Like, I'm not being out of the box when I say that this manager just killing my experience watching Chelsea. My experience has just been rubbish. I preferred watching us last season. I really did. Did we get to the heights of
no
playing? But I preferred watching us, Charlie. I did.
Sure, it's more enjoyable when it's just chaos.
It was much more entertaining.
Yeah, sure.
And the argument is then the structure. And like, I agree with you. Yeah, we have more structure. But then on the flip side, then I'd say, well, has the structure helped develop more players this season than last season? I think the answer is no. I think that our best player has regressed under this manager. Whether you want to say that he would have regressed anyway, we spoke about that
he's regressed, right? He's obviously
scored. Well, he's been put in a position where he's been asked to create, and that shows to me that the manager's clueless. Because if you had a striker, maybe that would make sense. You don't have a striker, so who are we creating these chances for if we don't have people that can finish the chances? That's number one. Second thing, look, hindsight's a great thing. If we would have played Palmer on the right, maybe we could have got more out of Nkunku this season. Maybe we could have got more out of João Felix. Maybe Chukwuemeka could have had a part to play in this squad because we'd have another space to fill that void. And then you look at other players like Vega as well. I just think like he's not managed players well. Like individually, I don't look at many players and think.
But they all wanted to go, by the way.
Felix because they were mismanaged.
Felix wanted to leave, like
because he was mismanaged.
No, because his ego is too big for how good he is. He wanted to go.
We can agree with that, but you can also agree that he deserved more minutes than he got.
Mate, the minutes he did, he was shit. Like,
it's like anything, Charlie. If you're given 10% of all minutes available and you're only played against the relegation side, it is a bit of a slap in the face.
Sure, you still have to show something. You still have to show something in your appearances, and he showed absolutely shit all. Like, I hate this babying of Felix. Like, he's crap.
It's not just Felix. It's Chukwuemeka. It's Nkunku.
But Chukwuemeka was never part of the plans in the first place.
You know, they've all players that I think have
he was never part of the plans.
Benefited from the manager.
But he was never part of the plans. Like, he was never going to play.
Well, he was brilliant last season, so you know that's just not a good thing, is it? That's another player.
He played about 5 games last season.
You talk about Gusto?
No, Chukwuemeka.
Oh well, Chukwuemeka was part of Pochettino's plans until he got injured. He scored against West Ham and then got injured.
He got injured after 2 games and basically missed the whole season.
But I think he's a great player, and I would have loved to have seen him being given a chance. Not as a starter necessarily, but I do think that he deserved more of a chance. You know, again, it all comes down, a lot of it is opinion, but when I talk about regression as well, I don't necessarily think that is opinion. I think that you can look at most players and say, probably not improved. Or if you want to look at your Maduekers, you go, well, all right, fine. Is Madueke going to get me top 4? No. Great progression.
It's a recruitment issue at the end of the day.
Yeah,
the recruitment is also an issue. Absolutely.
The recruitment's the biggest issue because you've put together a squad that's not capable of competing, and you've put together a squad that it's got gaping holes in it, which shouldn't be there. So you can say all this you want about the manager, but at the end of the day, like the manager's not been given the tools that he needs. You know,
on the flip side, if the manager was good, he would be able to work with what he has. He would be able to adapt.
Yeah, but the players are
admitted that he can't adapt.
Because the players he's got aren't good enough, and he's not got the players to play a different way.
He does. Of course he does.
He doesn't, mate. This group of players is people are overrating.
We have arguably one of the best midfields in the Premier League. We have arguably one of the best, I'd say, top 3 players in the Premier League with Palmer when he's at his best. We had Petrovic at our disposal. We chose to shift. But
we're not
get top 5. You're telling me we can't get top 5. We got finished 6th last year.
Yeah,
of course we can get top 5. The league's worse.
The squad's the same. The squad is basically the same standard.
We went into the season with better options than we went in with last season. Now, the argument of Gallagher is better than Dewsbury Hall, I absolutely hear that point. And I also understand that we had Thiago Silva last year.
You sort of like sideways moves, really. You can't. For me, I cannot sit here and say
we had more options. And we had more stability, which is something you can build on. And the manager is basically, it's like Maresca's that guy who was offered a pay rise and said, nah, I'm happy where I am. I don't want a bump.
But I understand why you're putting like so much blame on the manager. Like he's got you're blaming it like almost
I
everything
believe
on him.
I actually disagree that the recruitment's the biggest issue. I
Oh
always
mate, are
thought
you
that the
serious?
ownership was the
Are you
biggest problem.
are you mad?
The ownership is a bigger problem than the
Yeah, but
recruitment.
that can't go anywhere. The recruitment is
But that's the biggest problem.
no the recruitment's the single biggest issue. The
No,
recruitment's the
ownership.
biggest. No, it's not. The
It is.
recruitment's the biggest issue because if we
The
recruit,
owners pick the recruitment.
no, they don't pick the recruitment. There's
They picked Lawrence Stewart and Paul
yes.
Winstanley
What I'm saying is the directors pick the players, right? And what I'm saying is that
because they're given instructions from the
but
owners.
it's the owners aren't picking the players. The
Do you
directors,
think that it's the director's fault that we couldn't get Osman?
well, look, it comes
Obviously,
from the
it's
wage
not.
structure.
It's the owner's fault
it's
because
not,
they didn't want to pay the money.
No, but the issue is the directors and the way that the squad's been put together. So, like at the end of the day, you can say all this about a manager. The squad is shocking. The squad is awful. There's no escaping it, right? And people go, "Oh, we've got better players in Newcastle. We've got better players in Nottingham Forest." Maybe on an individual basis, right? But I said this to you the other day. How many Chelsea players start for Newcastle? Maybe one. Cole Palmer, maybe one, and that's it. No one else is starting in that Newcastle team, and that
Cucurella might get in there.
What ahead of Lewis Hall? Maybe, probably
the difference is though. Can I just interject here and say that if you had said this at the start of the season, there would have been more players even before you'd seen them this season that you would have said, "Oh, they would start for Newcastle," for example, and that's the difference.
Okay. Yes. So. Again, that's just another example of regression. By the way, like I'm not sitting here saying the recruitment have been good. Obviously, they haven't.
Recruitment's terrible.
But they have been given a set of instructions and they have carried out those instructions. And if you're saying that the players that they've brought in aren't good enough, the instructions weren't good enough. And that is from the top. That's
you're not getting rid of the top though, so it's a pointless argument.
It's like, let's just say this, Charlie. Like, let's say this. You obviously write articles. I'm going to just think of a really random one off the top of my head. And your boss says to you, what's the name of the company?
I'll do it for this Chelsea News website.
Right. Let's just say Chelsea News, whatever. They go, Charlie, we want you to write all the latest transfer news articles, but you're only allowed to write 10 words per article. Are your articles going to be any good?
Well, obviously not, no.
No. So when you're given a budget, a cap on what you're allowed to spend on players from a wage point, because it's the transfers that seems to be less of a problem. It's the wages.
But the fees aren't the issue.
You immediately cut yourself out of a lot of the good deals that are available. And there's no doubt that we would have got better players if we were able to offer 200-300 grand a week. Of course we would have. Now, you always get your flops like your Sterlings. That's fair. But, if we would have continued with that approach, we would have absolutely had a more experienced and more capable squad than we have now, with a little bit of bottle and experience. So for me to say that the directors are the single biggest problem at Chelsea is disingenuous, because it's the ownership, the people that hired them, the people that give them the instructions. Now, the other question is, are they doing a good job with the instructions they've been given? And the answer would be, again, no. So then you say, well, what's the problem? And actually, you could point at every single aspect. I mean, you said it after the Warsaw game. You said the players aren't good enough.
Yeah, it's everything.
I agree. The manager's clearly not good enough. The directors aren't good enough. And the owners don't know what they're doing. So everybody is culpable. Everyone is to blame. But ultimately, like when we talk about the footballing side, I do believe this squad is capable of getting Champions League football. I really do. And I think we've bottled it. And I put that down to the manager. And the directors didn't make his life easy in January. Agreed. But
we made the squad worse in January. That was criminal. And that's like that. What we did in January was the message that comes from that is we don't care whether we get Champions League football or not. Because if you're serious about getting Champions League football, you would have strengthened in January and given the manager the best squad possible to achieve those goals over the second half of the season. Instead, you made it worse and made it harder for us to achieve what we're looking to achieve. And so that for me was enough there where I'm like, yeah, these guys aren't asked whether we finished in the top 5 positions or not. It was questionable whether we had a squad good enough to finish in the top 5 to begin with. And then you make that squad weaker and worse in January, there's no surprises that we're struggling to finish in the top 5. The difference
Do you think that's arrogance, Charlie?
of what?
Of the directors, like thinking that they would still be able to achieve Champions League by weakening us, or do you think that that's just they're just not? I don't know what else you could do. Arrogance is the first word that comes to mind.
I don't know. There's just no
Or
accountability.
they're just clueless.
Well, it's probably more likely to be that. There's just no accountability for anything, and that's the biggest issue. But that culture is set from the top. No one takes responsibility for anything. No accountability. It's always someone else's fault. No one takes responsibility for anything whatsoever. And that's how mediocrity is allowed to thrive. And that's what's happening right now, because no one takes responsibility for anything. No one owns up to anything. No one says, oh, we've got to do better. We've got to do this and that or whatever. Maresca, talking about we need a real leader. Yeah, we absolutely do. Reece James' interview was great and it was honest and it was refreshing to hear afterwards, even though it was very concerning what he was saying. Reece James is not a leader. Let's be perfectly clear. I know there's different ways to lead, and Reece James will never be a John Terry style leader. Of course he won't. But ultimately, for me, Reece James does not strike me as someone who's a leader. That's just the way that I see it.
That's the recruitment again. It comes down to the inexperience. It comes down to the glaring issue in the squad that again was you can't let a player like Thiago Silva go and not even replace him by a fraction.
We don't have a real leader.
Huh?
We've got Uncle Tossin.
Uncle Tossin.
I shouldn't laugh, really. I honestly don't laugh.
Uncle Tossin, the one that gives an extra lollipop when all the parents aren't watching. That's great leadership.
We don't. He said it himself, Maresca. We don't have a real leader. Yes. He's openly admitting that Reece James is not a leader, and he's not. He's obviously improved and he's showing signs, but that's just not the character that he is. Enzo Fernandez is more of a leader than Reece James, in my opinion. But the issue we've got here is that you let Thiago Silva go, and not only do we didn't replace what he brings on the pitch, we didn't replace what he brings off it either. So when you go into a season where you've got a group of young, inexperienced players and not one single leader to look at, to take inspiration from in difficult moments, to look up from, to learn from, you've got a massive problem. So whilst the manager, I agree with you, Alex, the manager has absolutely not done well enough over the last 4 months, because we've been absolutely shocking for 4 months, no signs of improvement. I fully agree with you on that front, and I'm not here defending the manager saying that he's not done crap, because he has. But when you are given the tools that he's given, you're given the squad that he's given, and you've appointed a manager who's had 1 year of experience in the Championship, are we really surprised that he's not doing that well and he's not ready for this job? We could have all told you that in the summer. This guy's not ready for this caliber of job, So again, that's why the blame goes to the owner, to the directors and those above, because they appointed the manager in the first place. I've got no issue with Maresca taking this job. Of course you're going to take the job. But when you appoint a manager with 1 season of experience in the top flight, how can we sit here and be surprised that it's not going very well? What are we expecting? A manager to come in and be unbelievable after 1 year of managerial experience? It's nonsense. What can you expecting him to do?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it, though? That's why, obviously, we always look further above, because we know that that's the problem. Obviously, in the past, now we know in hindsight, the managers that were appointed before Maresca at Chelsea, like Potter and Poch, obviously, they weren't good enough, right? They weren't good enough for Chelsea. And that's the thing, that's the issue. That's the problem, that they are not trusted to make another decision that's going to be any better than what we've already seen. And that's the issue there, that we're always going to go down the route of this type of manager. And again, there's only so much blame that he can take as an individual. I do agree, though, that both could be true, that they made the wrong decision with obviously appointing Enzo Maresca, but also he still should have done a little bit better with some of these players. And that's the thing. That's why we get laughed at, guys, because how could we possibly still be in a position where we're saying, oh, next transfer window, then we'll have the best squad. Oh, the window after that, then we'll have the best squad when we've got a striker, a prolific goal scorer, a great centre back, a great goalkeeper. Then we'll be, because after the amount of money we've spent, we truly always have been in a much better position now, especially with how many mistakes. Like, we were arguably the door was left wide open for us in a season where so many other teams were also going through a transition. So many other teams had like hit highs and lows in their season and been as inconsistent. This was the year that we had room to make as many mistakes as we did, but still do better with the players that we have, with some of them settling in now for a second or third season, which is, a lot better than when they were here in their first season. So like, they had so much room to make mistakes and still do much better. Yet we haven't, and we've absolutely like shut the door in everyone's face and said, oh, we actually don't need this head start you're giving us. Like, that's the biggest issue I have as well. So it's a little bit laughable that we're still in a position where, of course, we know which profiles are missing in the team. Like, we are still crying out for the glaring absences.
Shouldn't be missing in the first place. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, I agree. And again, like, we have only ourselves to blame when we bottle top 5 because of the players that we let out on loan in January. And I'm not saying that Joao Felix staying and Chukwuemeka staying would have made us an unbelievable competitive team to the end of the season. I'm saying if there were incomings in their positions, or players that at least could have had an immediate impact from January till May to get you into the top 5, players that don't need time, that don't need 2-3 years, players that just come in and instantly gel with the squad, upgrade us in some way, like Villa did, like City did. And that's why when they get top 5 over us, you just have to step back and say, well, fair play, because you actually went ahead and saw what you needed from now until the end of May to get over the line, to compete in Europe, whatever, domestic cups. But we didn't do that. Instead, we thinned our squad. You look at the bench, and yeah, of course, I feel sympathy for Maresca. He's looking at a game changer to come on in a game where we need a result. And who's he got on the bench? Like, that's the question. Who has he got on the bench that is a true game changer and that you are itching to come on, and you're like, can't wait for him to come on?
No one. Absolutely no one.
And that's the problem. So there he is. He's betting on his starting 11 for the life of him to see out a job, because who truly is saving us? You're basically going to make a like-for-like sub maybe, but there's not going to be better quality coming on. You're just going to have to, fingers crossed, hope that whoever's coming on is going to, produce a moment of magic. And that's not a sustainable way to build a squad. It's not a sustainable way to run a club. So, you look back at, and I'm sure like you would have seen the picture of like Courtois and Petr Cech, just a prime example in training, like the choices we had back then, and now you've got Sanchez and Jorgensen. It's just a disparity in players that we had, and we're not talking, we are talking, you wish you had players like that, but it's more that players we brought in now still should be doing so much better to what is actually around us. But there's no way you could assemble a squad of all young potential what ifs and have them competing at this level at a club like Chelsea. Like, this project that's so experimental, yeah, we may have had belief in it at some point because we were excited about the prospect, but actually we're now coming to terms that this isn't ever going to be prosperous. Like, you look at Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, like the perfect blend of young talent and experience, and the perfect example of it coming together to be a great squad. Having an 18-year-old with a 36-year-old that are equally good, just an example. But having players there that can actually integrate incomings, we don't have that. Everyone's like, hey mate, I've been here 5 minutes, you've been here 2, let's try and work something out. Like, it's just, never going to happen. So, of course, like, you look back and you're going to miss the players that were never replaced, like, not even by a fraction, again, a smidge. But let's not kid ourselves. At the start of the season, a lot of the teams that are sat above us would still have said, oh, yeah, I would have liked that player in my squad. Oh, I would have liked that player in my squad. Not anymore, though. After the season's unfolded and you've seen that, that potential maybe could be unleashed in 2 years, whatever. And yeah, that's just frankly not good enough, because we have aims and objectives to be meeting in the present day, yet we're told, oh, future, 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 future. All right, mate, good luck with that future. Yeah, but we're getting a little bit impatient here because we have priorities here. We want to be back in the Champions League. We deserve to be there. Getting there and being there, whole different story. However, just being there in the first place. So yeah, they have it all wrong.
When you say we deserve to, you say we deserve to be there. We don't deserve to be there.
Well, no, we don't deserve to be there. True, but we should be there.
Well, yeah, that's a different conversation. We don't deserve to be there because we've not been good enough. That's the reality.
Agree.
From top to bottom. So we can sit here and say, oh, we deserve this, we deserve that. We deserve nothing. We're getting what we deserve. And that's not Champions League football.
Yeah, no, I take that.
And we don't deserve that Champions League football. And that's a terrible thing to be sitting here and saying. But we can't just sit here and go, oh, because we've been so successful in the past, we have a divine right to finish in the Champions League spaces. We don't. You have to earn that right. And we haven't earned that right because we're not good enough. As simple as that. We are not good enough from top to bottom to finish in the Champions League spaces. You know, it's one of them where this has happened by design. What's happening right now is a direct result of the decisions that have been taken by ownership, by directors. This is happening by design right now. All the actions that have been taken under this new ownership has led to what's going on the pitch. That's why we're struggling, because it's all as a culmination of everything that's happened over the past 3 years. That's just the reality. That's where we are right now. Is that all the decisions taken have led us to this point. And you know, the money that we've spent. I said it the other day. I honestly think this is the single biggest waste of money in Premier League history in terms of money spent to squad that's been built. The single biggest waste of money. That's not me saying we've signed all crap players, because that's not true. But that's me saying in terms of the money that we've spent to not have a complete squad and to not be able to be in a position where you can at least compete and challenge for the major trophies after that investment is one of the biggest failures in Premier League history. This is a season, right, where this is the weakest Premier League season in a long time, and the Champions League qualification's been extended to 5 places, and we're still going to miss out. That is one of the single biggest failures in Chelsea's history. It's terrible.
Let's look ahead to Fulham as well.
The final.
Yes, the final, the cup final at Craven Cottage. There is no trophies at stake. There is no guarantee of top 4 at stake, but it is still a final according to Enzo Maresca. We won last season. We lost the season before. That was when João Felix got sent off on his debut. That was good fun.
Wow. Yeah, good
but
fun.
I mean, last year was fun. Bro has scored. I think Mudryk scored as well.
Scored,
and that was good fun. Listen, I'll just put my cards on the table straight away. I don't see us winning this game. If you look at Fulham's record as well, it's a really weird record. The Athletic did a...
Mate, they just got win, lose, aren't they?
And they just lost. So guess what's going to happen?
Well, even if that in Craven Cottage, baby.
Well, even if they weren't on that sort of a run, they're not losing this game. I'd be shocked if we won. I really would be.
You just know they've got a medicine they gave Liverpool in store for Chelsea.
Yeah, but we're no Liverpool. Like,
I
don't even think it's one of those games where Fulham outplays us. I think
it's
one of those games where Chelsea play, and you know we're gonna have 60% possession. Nah, that's not enough. 65% possession,
mate. Bring
and
it
then
up.
we're going to pass back to the keeper. It's going to get a little bit toxic.
We're so easy to beat, though. That's the thing. Like, teams don't even need to play well to beat us. It's very straightforward to beat Chelsea. You know, we'll have a lot of the ball, we'll miss a load of chances, we'll make mistakes and concede goals. That's what we do.
What do you think the biggest threat to worry about with Fulham is?
I can probably tell you right now that Willian will score. Pretty standard.
Stop it. Willian free kick in the 89th minute. 1-0 Fulham.
Jimenez is good, the striker. Muniz, the Brazilian forward, is decent. Pereira.
I love Robinson as well.
Robinson, the left back. Yeah, he's very good. So, yeah, but they got threats all over the pitch. Smith Rowe could cause damage. Mate, they're a half decent team, and Craven Cottage is never the easiest place to go. And yeah, they've got players who cause us problems. And so, yeah, I can see it being a very difficult afternoon.
Me personally, I think that even when you look at, like, they have some good players on. You just named a number of them. Smith Rowe's obviously a key player for them. Robinson as well, the way he bombs up the left. Like, the word that comes to mind when I think of Fulham is direct attacking football. And there's none of this nonsense like we do. And there's nothing wrong with retaining possession. Like, I'm all for being in control, creating more chances, and having more opportunities to score. But when you actually watch the games, sometimes you just think to yourself, like, why can't we just let the players do something individually rather than relying on this system, which clearly isn't working, to carry us through another game? So, I mean, that's where it's going to come from. It's going to be a counter-attacking goal for Fulham, maybe even a set-piece goal. You could see that probably happening as well. I mean, I know, but what's the name? Quaver, our set-piece coach, came in from Brentford. We haven't been great from set pieces, scoring at least, although I don't know how many we've conceded. That seems like another area we can improve. Maybe get some taller, stronger players in there in the summer. That would help, especially with a striker like Oxman as an example. But I just don't see where we get it from. And our record against Fulham isn't that great at Craven Cottage in recent years. Like,
It's mixed, isn't it? It's pretty mixed.
It's not like a bogey ground, but I don't go there with confidence. I don't go there thinking we're guaranteed a win.
How about a Tosin header from a corner?
That'd be nice.
How about that?
Tosin probably scored an own goal or something on his return to the Cottage.
Well, they were booing him at Stamford Bridge, which I was
it's because he ran. No, but it's because of the way that he left. I think it's because he ran his contract down, basically. They're pissed.
Oh, I thought they respected him. I didn't know it was like that.
But like, do you not think like, players are in? I don't know what Fulham offered him, but players are entitled to do that.
Yeah, of course they are.
That's his decision. I guess the flip side is that maybe he could have agreed at.
They would have wanted a fee,
some sort of a clause, maybe a £10 million fee or something, like anything to help the club. It would have been beneficial, but hey, who knows? I know that we beat Newcastle to Tosin because we offered him more money. When Tosin actually signed for us, he was on more money than Cole Palmer. Did you know that?
Tosin should have signed for Newcastle. Would have been far better for his career.
You reckon?
Yeah, wow. Mate. He would have won a League Cup and he'd be playing Champions League football next season. So yeah, it would have been better for him. Yeah.
The very fact that we were we were informed that window that we would be going in for a striker instantly, and the first transfer we made was Tosin on a free. Does that scream to you pursuing targets, or is it looking around to see whatever? Oh, I don't know, man. Sorry, I'm out.
Very opportunistic, isn't it? Like a lot of the things that we're doing. I personally never had a problem with signing Tosin.
Yeah, no,
but I guess the problem is
as a fourth choice centre back, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, if you had someone else to back it up, then you wouldn't have an issue with it. Just like I would have no issue signing Jonathan David on a free, because I think he's actually a great player. But then the argument is, are you choosing Jonathan David over Osimhen? Like,
yes.
What's the thought process here? And then you got Liam Delap, 30 million, but then Jonathan David, 30 million less. If you want to get him on a free, just talking about the financials here, and they're both on a very similar wage. So maybe that's part of the thought process as well. But then you've got to think to yourself, why would they pick us as players? Like, what do we offer? We don't offer money. We don't offer trophies anymore. We don't have a top manager that can attract players. Like, what do we have at this football club? So we'll have to wait and see.
We're in the city. We're in the capital. If you fancy living in London for a little bit, moving your family in London, and you just so happen blue's your favorite color, maybe.
You like paying a lot of tax.
Like paying a lot of tax, yeah. Like,
what's the congestion? What do you call it? If you want some ULEZ,
congestion charge, all of that.
You've got the most expensive trains in the world.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, you're better off flying to your destination. Yeah, no, I don't know. Like, I sat here last week, confidently said we'd beat, well, not confidently, I said I think we'll beat Ipswich. I was apprehensive, and then to, you know, draw to them at home, even though that really felt like defeat, in my head that was defeat. So how can I sit here confidently say that, you know, we beat Fulham? I just don't really see it. Craven Cottage as well. Fulham are going to fancy this game so much. You know, they're going to look at Chelsea and think, this is obviously this is a big derby, you know, West London derby. And I just think, you know, at Craven Cottage, that place can suffocate you a little bit. It does feel very, you know, very, very small at times, a bit claustrophobic. But, you know, I just think that Fulham are going to fancy this one. And I think, you know, sometimes in these derbies, it comes down to who wants it more, who takes their moment. And you can trust that Fulham will probably do that over Chelsea. But I don't want us to lose, guys.
I'm going 1-1.
Well, I think, you know, Alex, the problem I have with that is that's just as bad as losing to me right now, especially. Well, it's true. We don't need a draw. We need a win.
Oh, no. Yeah, of course we do. But
because, okay, if not Fulham, where, like, again, I asked you guys earlier, where do you pick out?
Maybe Everton next weekend at home. I don't know. Yeah, no, it's difficult. But yeah, no, I agree. I think the best we can do is a draw. I think a 1-1 is a good shout.
There you go. Well, listen, guys, let us know what you think in the comments. What do you think is going to happen against Fulham? What do you think about Chelsea's season so far? Do you agree with what we've said about Maresca? Where are Chelsea's priorities? And can Palmer and Nicholas Jackson get back in the goals as well? Subscribe to Nina, subscribe to Charlie. Both their channels are going to be in the description. And also subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV. Big up to everyone, and we will see you very, very soon. All the best.